absolutely, totally positive that it was going to usher in a brand new age of freedom and fairness for the American people and the world.
What do you remember? I know this has been a lot of years since this conversation, but I mean, what do you remember about specific words? I mean, was he literally saying there's going to be a revolution? It could be bloody. This thing could get violent, could get out of hand. But this thing
I don't remember that violent side. All I remember for sure is that he thought there was a revolution coming, and it was going to change. It was going to change the world, and it was going to bring about a redistribution of the wealth, and it would definitely mean that the wealthy people who are running the United States would no longer be running it. So that I can.
So it would be an overthrow of the upper class.
Yes, definitely. And the reason I remember this so precisely is because I was still a Marxist at the time, but I had a more pessimistic Marxist analysis. And my view was that revolutions had never actually occurred in industrialized countries like France or Germany or England. That I believed, it was possible to have a revolution in an agrarian economy like China or Russia or something like that, but that it was physically impossible to have the working class overthrow the ruling class in an industrialized country. So I was arguing that they were in fact wrong. Truthfully, what I was doing is I was contrasting my Cornell University graduate level understanding of Marxism with their lame undergraduate Occidental College version of Marxism. But I also felt like, I thought they were going to be happy, that I was giving them a more truthful, more sophisticated, more historically informed Marxist point of view.
Did Barry indicate how this revolution would take place in America?
From the context, it was supposed to take place through union organizing, through community activism, which was later part of his career, and it was supposed to take place through mental and psychological education of the working class, so that the more they understood intellectually about their oppression, the more likely they would be to take action to, in a sense, protect themselves.
So they were proposing that there would be wide-scale re-education of the American middle class, an indoctrination into socialist or Marxist ideology.
Yeah, only, we didn't call it indoctrination. We just thought it was just like, just
enlightenment.
Enlightenment, yeah, that was the... And the thing is, I was kind of in trouble that evening because I was basically saying that was just silly, that it wasn't going to happen, and that the best you could hope for would be having a strong socialist party that would make marginal changes in the redistribution of wealth.
Okay, so he also pointed out that there would be this revolution would come through community organizing. And of course, we now have ACORN, this multi-billion-dollar communist street organizing monster, and that we're financing as taxpayers. We're literally financing the revolution that's taking our country, and then also through union organizing, and in particular, I'm thinking of the service employees internet. Yes.
Yeah.
And Andy Stern, who said, "Workers of the world unite."
Right. Well, and so that's kind of what I can help everybody verify based on, my little snapshot access to young Barack Obama in the fall of 1980, is that his subsequent decisions about his life and career are entirely consistent with what a young Marxist socialist would think was the proper and appropriate action to take. So
he had a plan. He had a strategy to implement his Marxist revolution.
Yes, and that's why it was consistent for him to be attracted to being a community organizer, because that was one of the few cool jobs that a young Marxist could take where you could keep your conscience clear. If you actually worked for a business entity, I think the perception was that you were actually making things worse, and you were contributing to the oppression of the lower classes by doing that. So if you wanted to have a clear conscience, you only had a couple of options, and one was to be a community organizer. The other was to become a college professor, because you're not considered an exploiter of the working class if you're an academic. Also, becoming a civil rights lawyer is an okay job.
How about a news media journalist?
Yeah, I would consider, because a lot of the young radical kids that we hung around with, like Steve Cole, he ended up being a Wall Street Journal reporter briefly, and he's gone into journalism.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew Steve Cole and his later wife Susan Cole when they were at Occidental College.
Mm-hmm. What else do you remember about the conversation with Barry Soetoro, alias Barack Obama?
Well, I do remember that he brought up Frantz Fanon, who was a sort of a French revolutionary who was in favor of violent revolution in developing countries to overthrow colonialism.
What was his name?
Franz, F-R-A-N-T-Z. Fanon is, I think, I wish I had that here.
Okay.
Fanon is F-A-N-O-N, and he's the author of a very famous book called The Wretched of the Earth. And The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon.
And a proponent of violent revolution.
Yeah. And Obama, I also understand from reading Dreams of My Father, Obama really liked Malcolm X. And Malcolm X was basically a Muslim who was also a socialist. People don't remember, people have forgotten this, but it used to be in the 1980s that Islam and Marxism could kind of walk hand in hand.
Well, it goes back even further than that, Dr. Drew, because in World War II, the Islamic countries had a pact with Adolf Hitler, the National Socialist Party.
That's correct.
And in many of the Islamic countries today, the ruling Islamic political parties are socialist.
Yes.
Remember, in Iraq, the
Right.
Baathists were socialists.
That's exactly.
In Syria, they are socialists.
Right. And I think people...
And Yasser Arafat was a vice president of Socialist International.
Okay, I didn't know that, but that's entirely consistent. And all I'm saying is the young Barack Obama, his behavior was consistent with being an Islamic Marxist. And I think what happened is after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the Islam sort of started becoming, I think, maybe more anti-communist. But Obama, was probably on the side that it was a good idea for the Soviet Union to invade Afghanistan in order to, maintain socialism in that country.